This is Ask a Lawyer with Blaine Cluton. In this show, we answer commonly asked legal questions that are posed on the internets and from other places. With me, as usual, is my friend and trusty companion, Andrew McGuire. Andrew, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm here, Blaine, and I am excited to chat with you on this episode of Ask a Lawyer.
All right, so we answer commonly asked questions. I'm an attorney, but I'm not your attorney. This is a good starting point, but it's not an end point in your journey. If you have legal questions at the end of this session, please do contact an attorney. This is for general information only. I'm going to call this session into order. Please be seated. And Andrew, why don't you tell the folks what we're talking about today?
Today, we're going to be talking about how to write a sworn statement. And in that conversation, I'd like to start with what is a sworn statement? Why are sworn statements important? When might sworn statements be used? And what needs to be included in a sworn statement? So what is a sworn statement?
Okay, that's a good question. And it's something that I use almost every day in my practice. I've written either hundreds or thousands of sworn statements, and almost everything that I file with the court and things are usually like motions and orders. If you're going to file a motion with a court, meaning you're moving the court to take some action, and then the order is effectuation of that motion, almost every motion needs to be supported by either a declaration or an affidavit. Affidavits are notarized, so they actually have a notary stamp at the bottom where a separate licensed individual is going to witness your signature and then apply a stamp that they witnessed you signing it. They also have to take your ID, whereas a declaration is a statement that's made under penalty of perjury and can be used as evidence against you in subsequent proceedings.
So you said a word that I don't understand. Effectuation, what does that mean?
Give effect.
Okay.
There's probably simpler ways to do this. So if I'm moving the court to do something, which is a motion, the only way that the court can give it effect, they can make it happen, is by putting that order into place. So whatever motion I'm seeking, then it's followed by an order, which is the manifestation of what I'm trying to achieve.
Okay. So if you're doing this every single day, and it sounds like this is just what happens in every single case that you're involved with, obviously ridiculous and silly question, but why are they so important? It's clear to me that in order for it to be true and factual, you have to go through this sworn statement exercise. And as you're saying, a notary stamping it, which the only example I have from a notary is personally, there's things going on with property or financial situations. But when you get into specific cases, let me give you an example. This might help. I was trying to find some examples to talk through for this. And the most recent example that's relevant is Attorney General James taking action on Donald J. Trump and Trump Jr., saying since 2004, the Trump Organization has prepared these annual statements of financial condition of Donald J. Trump. And since 2017, these statements have been issued by the trustees for this revocable trust since he was president. And what I'm curious about is, like, this isn't an official sworn statement. It's just they're saying these are annual statements released since 2004 from the organization. But when you get into it and double click, there are dozens of current and former Trump Organization employees that have provided, quote unquote, sworn testimony in the last few weeks for this attorney general in New York. And Ivanka Trump has refused to appear to give this sworn testimony. And they give out these annual statements, but there's no official, like, what's the difference between I'm a business giving you this annual statement versus sworn testimony or sworn statement? And to me, it's one and the same, which is just I'm giving you these records. But clearly, there's a big difference if we've got Ivanka and got Eric and Donald Trump Jr., all these people associated with the organization saying, I'm not giving you this sworn testimony or sworn statement. And I would like to understand, is there a difference between a sworn testimony and a sworn statement in this example where you've got a business releasing annual statements, but it's not officially a sworn statement or sworn testimony? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there's a lot of questions there. So let me start to try and unpack this and then back me up. So
Okay.
a sworn statement, this is kind of like the difference between what is an interpreter and what is a translator. So an interpreter is somebody that listens to a person speaking in another language and then interprets what they're hearing to another person in another language. So it's not a one for one, word for word. It is a interpretation of what they're hearing that is going to make the most sense to the person listening, whereas a translation is a word for word written translation.
Okay.
And the reason I'm drawing this analogy is the difference between sworn testimony versus a sworn statement. A sworn statement is something generally that's written and that you're swearing that it's true and accurate to the best of your knowledge. And that's something that you can always refer back to and say, please see my sworn statement, as this is
Okay.
my correct recitation of facts. Whereas in testimony, generally it's a back and forth question and answer where where one party is asking, usually it's the state or some government actor is asking individuals questions. So I don't know about this particular fact pattern that you're giving me, and I'm not an expert in federal law or some of these regulations. Some of them do fall under SEC filing requirements, and depending on the way that these different organizations are structured, what type of filings they're required to make either annually, semi-annually, or quarterly, or whatever schedule that they're on. But let me see if I can try and provide you some general guidance about this. So my best guess, based on the information that you've provided, is that what's occurring is that there's some sort of government investigation that's happening into these individuals, and they're looking for some sworn testimony to corroborate or to further their investigation against either an individual or an enterprise or some actors, right? And so when people are refusing to give testimony, in a sense, that can be going back to them invoking some either Fifth Amendment privilege or that they don't want to be subject to this investigation. And the next step is either to compel them to testify before some sort of tribunal or some panel. And if they don't comply with that, then they can seek a contempt of court for noncompliance.
Let's come back to when sworn statements might be used. And when I say sworn statements might be used, that can go both ways, right? If I'm the prosecutor or the defendant, let's unpack that. And then I do want, and you tell me if you want to start with this, but what needs to actually be included in a sworn statement? Are there requirements when writing a sworn statement that have to have specific pieces that I submit as defendant or prosecutor related to sworn statements? So you tell me where you want to start, but that's really where I want to bring us back to in the last few minutes here.
Okay, so when are sworn statements used? Let me just think of some examples, because as I mentioned, almost every time you're moving the court to take some action, you're including some sort of declaration or affidavit, some sworn statement in support of your position. And most commonly, what they're used for is in civil cases. And actually, let me backtrack that, because they are used so frequently in criminal cases as well. Every single time that, for instance, a prosecutor files a complaint, an information of misdemeanor in Oregon, if the defendant fails to appear, then the prosecutor has to stand up and give a sworn statement under oath with probable cause supporting. Another example of a sworn statement, and this could be in a written sworn statement, is just take a very basic example. Let's say that there's a criminal case that's pending, and for some reason I need to continue a next hearing date because I have an officer unavailable or a witness unavailable. I would make a motion to continue that next proceeding with an order by the court to sign that's ordering the case continued. In support of that motion, I have to write an affidavit or a declaration in support of why I'm asking the court to continue the case, and I would include facts sufficient for the court to find that there is a reasonable basis for me to ask for this, so that they don't need to have a hearing and inquire further about why I'm asking for the case continued. So is this the first time the case has been set over? Is the defendant currently in custody? Who are the witnesses that are unavailable? So those are the main types of things that I'm going to be including in my declaration or my affidavit in support of my motion to continue. But you can just think of any sort of motion or thing that you're trying to do to ask the court to do something. In the case, there's just so many examples every time that you're asking the court to do something where you're going to have to include a motion with a declaration or affidavit. The thing I wanted to talk about that was, depending on the type of motion that you're filing or the type of action that you're seeking the court to do, you may need to include different things in that declaration or that statement that you're filing with the court. So your best bet in that situation is to talk to an attorney and make sure that you've got the sufficient contents so that you're not going to have your order refused or you've done something incorrectly. So this is the part of the show where I say, hey, you need to talk to an attorney, because no show would be complete if I didn't do that.
It's like every time we get to the end of one of these, it's just go talk to an attorney. I don't even know why anyone's listening to this. Well, just go talk to your attorney about anything.
Like I said, it's a good starting point. And if somebody really wanted to know about sworn statements, now they've got a little bit more of a flavor.
Yeah, and they know that Ivanka is not going to give them sworn testimony, so there's that too.
No, and I'm guessing that she probably talked to an attorney, and the attorney is giving her advice. Another reason to listen to an attorney.
All right, well, so go talk to your attorney.
Let's close up shop.
All right.
This has been Ask a Lawyer. If you want to submit a question, please go to fairpunishment.org, and we'd be happy to read your questions on air. Thank you, Andrew, for joining me. For Blaine Cluton.
Of course.
This is Blaine Cluton for Andrew McGuire. This session is adjourned.